Hola, hola. Welcome everybody to season 3 of the Chicago Techies podcast, a podcast focused on highlighting the voices of Chicago techies and their experiences. This season, we'll be hearing from seasoned entrepreneurs to rising stars making their mark. We'll dive into their triumphs, their challenges, and all their unique experiences that have shaped their journeys. I'm Ceci Fischer-Benitez. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Yoetzin, welcome to the Chicago Techies podcast. How's it going?
Ooh, great. Thanks, Cecilia, for having me here. I'm so super excited to be talking to you today.
Why don't we get started with all the questions and everything about you?
Yeah, let's do
Let's
it.
start with your name, your pronouns, where you're from, and your current role.
Yeah, so I'm Yoetzin Diaz. My pronouns are she, her, and I am from Chicago. And then what was the other question? Sorry.
Just your current role. Yeah.
My current role, I am a product marketing manager.
I don't think I've had a product marketing manager yet, so I'm excited to hear all about what your day-to-day stuff looks like.
It's fun.
But I do want to start from the beginning because I usually like to do that first. I like to ask folks, what was it growing up for them? Like, did they always know that they were going to end up in tech, or, what was your journey like for you? What were you interested on? Tell me about little Yoetzin.
Oh my gosh, Cecilia, it's been such a crazy journey for me because I never imagined myself being, where I'm at right now in product marketing. That wasn't part of the plan, I would say. But little me wanted to actually be an architect. I was actually originally born in Mexico City. And I remember that my parents hired an architect to build our home because, over there, it's very common to have land and build a home there and, raise a family. And I remember as a young girl, oh my God, I want to be an architect. I wanted to be an architect to be able to design my parents' house, my own house. And I was only 8 years old. And that's where that interest really sparked. And so that really what was the driver when, I moved to the US, and that was sort of always the goal in the back of my mind, I want to take these classes, like drawing or sketching and, things related to it all the way when I got into college. It was time to pick a major. And I mean, it was no brainer, right? I was like, architect. I still want to be an architect.
Yeah. Wow. So where in Mexico did you say?
I was born in Mexico City.
Mexico City. Okay, yeah. Awesome. I was born in Michoacan. I also grew up in Mexico for up until I was 11, and then I moved.
Oh, high five! Yeah,
I know. Same. So, what was that immigration experience for you? How old were you?
I was 8 years old when we moved to the U.S. Obviously, as you know, besides the culture shock, it's also the language. Mm-hmm. Right? That you're learning a language at 8 or older, it's a lot different because I do think that it's a muscle. Spanish is very different from English, and you grow up faster. That's the best way that I can describe it. Going to a different country as a child is it forces you to grow up faster, just to look at the world differently, honestly. In a good way, though, I would say. Probably more independent, too.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think a lot of my memories from 8th and 9th grade when I was, or in 7th grade when I was really learning English, a lot of my memories are going to the library and translating for my folks.
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I can relate to that so much. I mean, I was in ESL, I would say, in elementary school. But I think for me, a memory that really sticks is translating from my parents at the doctor. I remember my mom actually burned her hand. And I was so scared to talk English before that because I was just so self-conscious of my accent, or I'm not saying a word right, but because my mom was in so much pain, it just forced me to talk and translate for her, so in these are the type of experiences that you look back and you're like, oh my God, we were only children.
Yeah. And funny enough, I have a twin sister, and so we were both going through this same experience, right? And I always remember though, vividly like being so proud of myself because my sister never wanted to do it. Like she was too
Oh,
shy. Like and we would just look at each other to see who's gonna do it this time, who's gonna do it this time, and it was always me having to speak up and translate. But I mean, I guess it made sense because I was always more of like the outgoing one, like the one that talked more, the one that
you were brave.
I did like. I actually really enjoyed English. I thought I was pretty good at like mimicking, and I
Oh,
think that's what helped too with the accent. But
that's so
anyway, I
cool.
those are some of my early memories that I remember having to do that for my parents. But
That's awesome.
um,
I did not know that about you.
yeah,
So
yeah. Well, I know a little bit about architecture, construction, and engineering because I worked at a high school, for 5 years before tech,
cool.
and they focus on those things. And I was helping students kind of choose their paths into those careers. So I want to know a little bit about your like trajectory, kind of like going through the high school system and going through college and kind of declaring, that you wanted to do architecture.
Mhm.
What was it that process like for you? Did you know other people that went in those fields with it around you, or what? How did you navigate it?
No, I actually didn't know anyone, that was in those fields or, and I wish I did. To get that guidance, right? Especially when you're younger and guiding you like these are the classes that you should take, or this is really how this industry works, or these are the type of volunteering programs that you could be doing. So I think I definitely missed out a little bit on that. But navigating and taking classes, it was just, asking professors, right? Hey, I like to sort of get into be an architect, what should I be taking? And I remember taking a lot of like sketching. And obviously in elementary school, like the perception was like architects just draw, right? So that was sort of like my main focus. And then when you get to high school, it was like a reality check because they're like, you need all this math, you need to
Mhm.
take CAD. And I was like, oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, But I also think like emigrating from like a different country, like you hold on so tight to these like goals and dreams, and I'm sure you can
Mhm.
relate to this. So it just didn't matter, how hard these classes were sounding. It's like, oh, okay, I have to get it done. So I took a lot of CAD classes in high school, a lot of math. I must say, I wasn't the best in math. It wasn't my strength. It wasn't my strongest.
It's not mine either.
So I was definitely doing a lot of tutoring when it came to the math part of classes. And, I try to take as much, I don't know if you remember AP classes,
Mhm.
right? Were a thing. I don't know if there's still a thing, but AP classes to sort of help me get those college credits or those, advanced classes to try to get there sooner. So yeah, it was a lot of math, a lot of CAD classes, a lot of drawing, uh, but it was fun.
Yeah. What college did you go to?
So then I went to a community college actually for 3 years just to try to get my gen ed
Janice.
classes
Yeah.
out of the way. Also, I was able to get a scholarship to transfer to a 4-year university afterwards. So I went to Illinois Institute of Technology. I think they recently
Nice.
changed the name to like Illinois
Illinois
Tech.
Tech. Yep.
Yeah, more hip. So I did their 5-year program there, their architecture program, and graduated in 2014. Can't believe it's literally almost like 10 years now.
That's wild.
I know. It's
And
super old.
I think, I mean, from what I know about you, I know that you had a little bit of a stint in construction, right?
Mhm.
Can you tell me a little bit about what prompted that, like, kind of transition from like architecture to construction? Like, what was that like?
Oh my God. So, yeah, like during actually college years, like I think, well, because I went to a community college, I took a lot of like gen ed classes. So by the time I transfer, I had, a little bit of room in my schedule to be filled out. And they're like, well, you need to fill up your schedule. And I was like, all right, so what are my choices, and they're like, well, you could take construction management. I remember the university was barely starting their construction management like program. So they're like, this could be like a good, introductory to what you're learning in 2D in the architecture side, and then learn how to build it. And so I started taking classes to make it a minor, and it changed everything for me. Like it was like that moment where I was like, it really made me doubt that I no longer wanted to be an architect, because I think it was just the concepts, like everything just made more sense. The drawing part of the architecture side, the designing, obviously, like I'm passionate about it, and like the final thing, once you see it built, but to actually learn how it gets built, I think that's what really changed for me. That I was like, maybe I don't want to be an architect anymore. I think I want to do construction.
Wow. I imagine that's like a big revelation, right? Because you spent all these years doing
Thinking
one thing,
and
yeah. But I mean, speaking of that though, like if women in tech is already like rough, right? Like we don't have that numbers. Now I'm curious about women in trades, like women in engineer, like in construction. I mean, that's probably even a little bit harder.
oh yeah, I mean it's super hard. I mean, even when I after I graduated college, I just when I decided that I wanted to do in construction, I think the biggest shocker was facing those challenges. Realizing that there wasn't a lot of women in the field, and that it was going to be a struggle. And yeah, navigating that, I think it was hard for sure, but I think it's also very rewarding, because I think we bring something else into the table, when it comes to working with teams that male teams don't really have. And that's sort of like the compromise, like the willing to work with one another. And I think those things a lot of times are overlooked. But I think the biggest struggle was, giving orders or asking someone to do something, like a 50-year-old person, and then you have this like 20-year-old woman telling them what to do. They're like, what the heck,
Yeah.
And it was tough, but I think that if there's one thing that I learned is relying, on the more experienced people, and really showing them that it's like, hey, I'm just a person too. I'm trying to learn and I want to learn from you, like share your knowledge with me. And that's really how I navigated just talking to the trades, on the field. I remember the bricklayer. I was talking to the superintendent one time when I was a project manager, and I said to him, like, oh, I really want, the trades to like really get along with them. And he said, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. He's like, let's go outside. He takes me outside. He's like, put your hard hat on, your boots, everything. We go by the bricklayer, and he goes, you said you wanted to get along. Why don't you try their job to see what they're doing? He's like, and I was like, oh my God, like I was a little intimidated and
Yeah.
scared, but I was like, sure. So I started trying to put the bricks together. Obviously, I was terrible at it. I didn't even know where to start. But he was teaching me something, that it was like, it's more than just a title. Like at the end of the day, people just want to be heard, and they just want to see that you want to learn from them as well. Yeah, it's been a
So
wild ride.
yeah, I bet. I'm excited to hear about this. Like, so what was your first role out of college? Like, did you go into architecture or did you go into construction?
I went into construction. So I started working for an owner's rep firm that was actually starting also their architecture division. So I did a little bit of architecture
Okay, cool.
probably for like a couple months. But they were a construction management firm. So I did more on the construction side of things. So I was like an owner's rep, like basically learning about like permitting. And then I did that for about a year and a half. And I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm ready to dive into full construction, like learn it all. And so that's when I changed roles and I went to work for a general contractor in Chicago. And I started as a PE. like boots on the ground.
What's a P mean in construction
Project
terms?
engineer, like a
Okay.
project engineer. Yeah, that's on the field, working with the superintendent on the trailer. That was like my second home on the job site.
Oh.
And then I moved into a project management role after that. And yeah,
And I
it was
imagine the
fun.
project management role is also now something that you can kind of transfer, right? Like those skills that you learn are definitely transferable. So
Absolutely.
we're making our way from construction to product marketing. So you spent a few more years doing construction there. And then what prompted this curiosity for technology or for wanting to know more about this industry?
Yeah, I told you it was going to be a wild ride. Well, so I think my third year as a project manager, the company started investing in new technology. And they're
Mm.
like, we need to use it on someone's project. And so I was sort of like, our project was sort of like the guinea pig of using the new technology. And I mean, obviously, it's like it, we did awesome because of it. We finished our
Mhm.
project ahead of time. Like, it just went really smooth. And me personally, I was like, I love this, and I started to kind of realize like, I think this is where the industry's going, like construction is like a very old school industry, but I'm like, wow, there's like a lot of opportunity here. And so after my project ended, I remember knowing the technology really well. And I remember my manager also asking me to train other project managers on the technology to help them like see the value. And so I started getting a little bit more immersed into it, that it started planting that seed. I'm like, what else is out there? Of technology. Like, I like this. Like, I want to learn more. And so at that point, I did transfer from a project manager. I did a VDC rotation, so a virtual design
Mhm.
department, to try to sort of explore that a little bit more. But then as I started learning more on the technology side of things of construction, I realized that, whoa, like there's a whole nother world of technology. And that was the pivotal moment when I was like, I think I'm ready to make the leap here into technology.
I have so many questions because this is such an exciting time, right? Because I am thinking also like there's so much you could do with construction and tech construction and like sustainability construction, right? Like there's designing and building like a greener future. Like there's a lot
Of
of
course.
things that as a with your background you
Yeah.
could make an impact in
Yeah.
various fields within tech. So I'm
Absolutely.
curious like what led you to to the next thing, like what was the marketing product marketing role after construction, or was there something before
That
that
was
role?
something before then. So
Okay.
so one, making an impact has always been like super important for me. But what I realized was that, okay, as a PM, I was making an impact, like building buildings, right? Like bettering people's places, right? Like I can pass by there and say, hey, I built that. Like that's an awesome feeling, right? Like I built that, and you can say so many stories about that. But then on the technology side of things, what I realized that, was like really attracting or getting my attention was improving the way people work. Like you're actually improving some like simple processes. You're
Hmm.
still helping them. You're still making an impact, but it's just by helping them do things better. And so I wanted to explore more of that. I'm like, okay, this is not a actual physical impact, but it's more like you're working behind the scenes, um, with a team of helping them improve the way they work. And so I was actually recruited by, can I say the name of the company or
Yeah,
no?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
okay. I was actually recruited by Komatsu, which is a construction machinery company. I was actually on a job site and someone approached me and they're like, oh, what are you working on? And just chatting through them, it turns out that they were starting their technology division because they wanted to get into the tech side of things. And so I'm like, this is the perfect opportunity for me to do tech, in construction. And there it was more focused on flying drones, more specifically on the earth moving side of things of
Oh, that's so cool.
construction. So that was my first like pivot into tech.
And I actually had a guest not too long ago where we were he does entrepreneurship. He's the CEO and
Mhm.
president of Entrepreneurships Academy, and they do drone flying
Ooh,
because I guess that's become a career for site
yes,
inspections. So they're like now like the drones have become like indispensable tools for construction site inspections, and not just construction but also like when you're selling a home, like you're
yep.
looking at roofs. I feel like the intersection of construction and technology is incredible. Like there's
Oh yeah.
also, there's multiple things that they're using AI and machine learning also for project management, right? For
Hmm.
to make sure that they're analyzing data and predicting potential delays or like optimizing schedules, like you were just saying, like finishing a project ahead of time. I,
Totally.
I, this is definitely like AI is a big topic right now.
Hmm.
Drones, like AR, even like like visualization,
Yep.
robots, like doing hard, like intense labor. I think
Oh
there's
yeah.
definitely a lot of like a huge intersection of technology and construction, and I hadn't really thought about it that way until I did my fellowship for BC. But anyway,
Oh.
I think there's definitely, I'm just getting so excited about what you're pointing out because I'm like, I think about these things sometimes too.
Well, you should go into construction, Cecilia.
No, I don't think so. But maybe I can invest in construction
There
and
you
tech.
go. Or you can invest in the technology. I mean, you said robots, and actually,
Yeah.
one of my ex coworkers was telling me they have a robot layout on the field already, testing it and
Mm,
helping them. So if back then I thought technology was the future, I can tell you right now that probably AI is the future on
for sure.
construction as well, for
Yeah,
sure. It's crazy. It's crazy
for sure.
exciting though, but it's changing. Change is here.
Now, like, walk me through the final step, getting from this construction background to your first role as a product marketing manager at Autodesk. Like, what was that journey like?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think Autodesk has always been the goal. It was like my dream company because it's one of the leading industry, companies for construction and design. Because I've used I used to use their software before,
Mm,
and I came to that was a goal of mine where it's like I want to work for Autodesk because they're a leading company in the industry. And so, after Komatsu, I couple of years there, I learned a little bit more on the product and product marketing. And really, that's what like gave me the confidence to go for a product marketing role. I don't think without that experience, I would have been able to even think about the possibility of me going into a role that I have now. And obviously, it was hard because I think my time at Komatsu was impactful and I really enjoyed the team and everyone there. But I said this is an opportunity came up to get into a full time product marketing role, and I decided to take on it. And I think this was a time I was thinking of like, okay, let's all bring it together,
yeah,
for this role, like all this experience, this technical side of things, and while at the same time still learning something new because it is a new role. I
yeah.
don't have a marketing background or anything like that, so it's been a learning experience, but it's been an exciting one, to say the least.
No, I mean, yeah, it's all about learning and adapting to everything. I mean, earlier,
Sure.
so did you, I guess I'm kind of going back a little bit here because I got too excited. But
Yeah.
so were you also flying drones in operating this machinery, or were you just working with people that were doing that?
Oh, in Komatsu? Oh no, I
Hmm.
was flying the drones. I got drone certified, FAA 107. I took
Yeah.
my FAA 107. I was flying drones and I also got to operate machinery. Yes.
So you do
Uh,
this. Okay. So now, like, how do you approach this, right? Like this learning and adapting to new technologies is
mhm.
in this industry that is like also like rapidly evolving because there's always new technology coming out. So,
Yeah.
as we're in the spirit of learning and adapting, like, how did you navigate those experiences? Like, were you excited? Were you scared? Like,
Mhm.
what was that like?
I mean, of course, I was a little scared because I was the only woman in the team too. It's not just about the experience, but it's also a gender,
Hmm.
But I think you always have to approach it with an open mind, of saying, okay, this is scary, but I'm a true believer that the things that are scary are the things that you should be doing, because I find that that's where I've learned the most. You just have to dig into like trying to trust yourself, asking questions, making sure that you're seen as you're open minded, open to learning, right? So then
Hmm.
people can help you. Yeah, I think that's really important, making that very clear like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing, but I love to learn.
Yeah.
Can you guide me through this process? But yeah, it was definitely scary. I'm not gonna lie. It was scary and intimidating many times for
I
sure.
can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and you mentioned this, as a woman, like in construction, right? Like, you also like mentioned like wanting to inspire others earlier, like
Yeah.
especially women. And I guess you want to set a good example. You are the
Yeah.
next generation of women that is taking onto these careers in construction. So, I'm curious in that spirit, like, what advice like do you have for individuals looking to enter that field in particularly, that are also coming from underrepresented groups?
Yeah, I think the first thing is try to look for mentors, people that are already in the field. Even if you don't know them, just try to connect with people because that's going to give you a lot more confidence to just go in there and doing it. And the second thing is just simply just do it. Like it's going to be scary, it's going to be really hard, but it's going to be really rewarding, honestly. It's very rewarding, not just because saying wow, I was the only woman there, but looking back and saying wow, like I learned all of this, and I learned it because I was willing to like learn and put myself out there. But mentoring has been really important, honestly. Like I've looked for mentors even for my previous jobs. Actually some of that were my boss, like my first boss, like she became my mentor because she's also a woman, she's in construction. So it's also like relying and leaning on those
Hmm.
connections to give you that confidence and to guide you. And, especially in those hard moments, I think it's such a big help. It's such a like huge support system.
Yeah, that's great advice. I wanted to circle back to just kind of highlighting a moment where you share that working for Autodesk was like your was a dream of yours. I feel like this is something that a lot of people can relate to. Everybody has a dream company.
Hmm.
Everybody has it has is preparing for something that are always dreaming about, and then you made it happen. So how did you prepare to take that step into saying, I'm ready for this? Like, I'm going
Hmm.
to go get this because, I'm confident that I can do this. I feel like a lot of us get stuck in just like
Hmm.
having that dream company and talking ourselves down.
Yeah.
So, what would you say to people that are, talking themselves down, that they're not, that they're kind of questioning
Yeah.
going for, after the dream company?
Well, I think the first you have to be sure what role you want to go through, right? That's the first thing. Like, where recognizing what your strengths are, that's the first thing. And which role are you going to go for, and how, where you think you can bring the most value, right? Where you already have enough experience to bring value into that role. And maybe that's not the case too, maybe you don't have a lot of experience. But I think the first thing is finding out, like being sure of where do you want to fit in this role or in this company. And then the second thing is what do I need to do to get there? Do I need more experience? What kind of skills? Do I need a certification? Do I need, I don't know, specific things that I need to know,
Mm-hmm.
or leadership skills, right? Because a lot of times these are overlooked as well. And I think that just like doing like a honest evaluation of yourself, right? But then again, at the end of the day, it's like maybe you're never ready. You just have to get to at some point motivate yourself and say, you know what, believe in your skills and your experience, and said, if you feel that it's time to make a change and it's time to go for it because you've been wishing for so long. Well, wishing for so long is not really gonna do anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just you're gonna get stuck, because I've been there. I was like, oh, maybe I'm not ready. Maybe I'm not ready. But at some point, you just have to make the jump, right? Like, do your research, do your research, and prepare yourself as much as you can, but know that you're going in with the mentality and the opportunity to learn even more. So,
Yeah.
and this is where the mentors come into place, because Cecilia, I can tell you that before me applying to Autodesk or even Komatsu, I call my mentor. And she gave me the pep talk. She's like, yes, of course you're ready for this. You've been working so hard all this time. Of course you're ready for this. You need to apply to it. You need to go for it. So it's like almost that boost of confidence, but also like these are people that believe in you. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, why wouldn't you believe in yourself? And
Yeah,
that's been I think a lesson we can all learn, honestly.
for sure. No, I love that. I love that. And always being open to continuous learning because you're always going to be learning for sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I have a couple more questions and then we can start wrapping up. But
Okay.
I think one is the one that I was also already getting excited about, which, considering your extensive experience in various things, like, where do you see this future of construction and technology heading?
Ooh, I don't know.
It's a
I don't
loaded
know.
question.
Yeah, it is a loaded question, but obviously, I think that, I mean, technology is here to stay, and I think that the demands of the market, companies need to keep up with the demands, and they're turning into technology to find a lot of these answers that they haven't been able to resolve without the technology. And so I think AI might be a big part of the industry specifically, not just because everyone's talking about it, but because I look back when this whole digital transformation started with construction, and this is exactly how it started. And I definitely see the industry heading there. Where do I see myself making an impact in the future? I think that with my technical knowledge, I love to continue to help develop, maybe software, or even on the marketing side, messaging, better things for our customers, like still helping them in construction, because there's a lot of opportunity. I'm passionate about this industry, and I think there's a lot of opportunity to continue to help. So I hope I can bring that technical side of things to even just a different perspective in the way we are leading some of these processes in the company. And obviously, aside from my role, like I want to inspire other women, to go into this field, because I think there's a lot more opportunity now than before.
No, yeah, I love that. I think I'm definitely inspired to go and learn a little bit more about construction tech, and
Yes.
how kind of it impacts like our day to day. Because it's everywhere. I mean, if you
Yes,
take a walk in West Loop, there is buildings that weren't there half a year ago. Like, it's
absolutely.
insane. Like, the amount of construction that Chicago is seeing in the last couple of years, and the technology that is being used to build,
Mhm.
this these new buildings that are like promoting, a green lifestyle, sustainability, like a lot of things. Anyway, I was excited to talk to you about all this because I figured
Yeah.
you had a lot to do with this too, so.
Yeah. I mean, and now they're using technology. So they might even be like finishing projects sooner. So this is why construction keeps booming too.
Well, what, like, I guess to wrap up, like, what are some of your personal goals? Like, where do you want to head, as you know, as we continue to evolve in tech?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely want to stay in tech. I don't know. I mean, part of me has considered like other talents, but I think that I like tech because there's like so many like paths that you can take and still be like have an impact on the industry. So my personal goal is just to continue to grow in the tech industry because honestly, like I'm fairly new to it too. I'm still learning a lot. So I want to definitely build my knowledge on, what it takes to solve a pain point for customers really in the industry.
Hmm.
Um, but I also want to do like mentoring outside of work. I think I'm at that point in my life where it's like, okay, I want to now give back, based on my experiences and, just professionally and outside of work. Like, I want to give back to my community. And
Yeah.
one of my
Well,
goals is, oh,
we
yeah, go ahead.
have the Latinas in Tech mentorship program that's coming back in March. So if you want to
Yeah.
sign up to be a mentor,
You know
um,
what? Yes, I currently have a mentor, by the way, from Latinas in Tech. It's been life changing experience.
oh, good.
Yes, I highly recommend anyone to please sign up for the mentoring program because it's been such a rewarding experience. I mean, she's helped me navigate through work stress, just questions, doubts. But you know what? You might be right. I think March would be a good time for me to make this goal happen.
Well,
I'll
I
keep you
love that.
posted.
I'm also going to share with you. I mean, I mentioned it earlier. The Entrepreneurs Academy. They're in the west side of Chicago.
Oh,
And I mentioned that they do some drones, like certifications as well for people that are interested in creating their own businesses or their own like, they're
wow.
entrepreneurs. So they're also looking for mentors too all the time. So
My
you should
gosh.
check them out, and consider, because you have this already experience that you can provide to someone. So that would be
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, thank you
I'll,
so
I'll
much for
I'll
sharing that.
put the link on our chat here box so you can see it if that's something that you're curious about. I interviewed um,
Absolutely.
Philip, and he was great, and I love
Mhm.
what they're doing, and everything's free for. They get a couple
Wow.
of grants. They work with the Department of Justice as well. They've gotten some grants.
Okay.
Um, or no, not the Department of Justice, the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority, I think it's called. Yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
So they do a lot of like returnship stuff as well.
Yeah,
But if that's something of interest, definitely check them out. They
absolutely.
do really, really cool stuff. Um, well, this has been a pleasure. I'm so excited for people to reach out to you because I hope they do. I mean, I had a lot of questions, so I'm sure people have more questions. If anyone wanted to reach out to you, where can they reach you?
Yeah, they can find me on my LinkedIn. We'll share the handle here, or they could email me, yoetzin@gmail.com.
Yeah, I mean, I can put
Info.
both of those on the show notes, and your links to your LinkedIn and
Yeah,
whatnot. So,
absolutely. Always
well,
open to
thank you so
conversation.
much for joining me. This was really exciting. This is really, I'm glad to have learned a little bit more about you and your journey, and I can't wait to see what's next for you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And it was likewise learning a little bit more about you. And this was so much fun. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Chicago Techies podcast. If you enjoy listening, don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a review on iTunes. Let's continue the conversation on social media. We are at Chicago Techies on all social media platforms. Thank you again, and we'll see you next week.